What is good, Josh on the Tool Game, man? Back and better, Back and better than ever with yet another reaction video. NFL Power Rankings reaction show. We own it live and proud, and because it's a dub, we in the black man to represent the Saints today because we finally got back in the win column for the first time in so long. Thank goodness. And to beat Atlanta too, it's like a 2 wins. You know what I'm saying? I'm just extra happy today. So let's go ahead and see what these Power Rankings are talking about. As always, like, subscribe, and turn that bell on so you guys can know when new videos are dropping live. And comment down below any other sports reactions that you want your boy to jump into. So see what the rankings look like, see if we agree with them, see if we would change them at all. And let me know down below too as well. Kind of interact with me. Where your team ranked at, and do you agree with it? Let's jump into the video.
Eric, I was thinking about you all day on Sunday as I'm watching these games because I'm seeing really good teams barely survive. And I was wondering, what's that going to mean for the rankings?
Probably nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the big picture and I was actually praying for the winners to win just so it didn't create chaos, didn't make my job any harder, but I don't have any rooting favorites. I promise you on that one. Boy, it would have been chaos had, 4 of our top 6 teams on the list barely won, and numbers 1 and 2 barely won. So close week. It just shows how even this league is right now.
Yeah, look, we're not in the month of March, but the theme of survive and advance certainly applies here in the month of November. But let's get to the rankings here some of these top teams.
All right, and so as they alluded to, yes, 1 and 2 barely won. The Lions and Chiefs staying right where they are. Bills and Ravens, same thing. Eagles jump up 2 spots to 5. Vikings stay at 6. Steelers up 2 to 7, and Commanders down 3 to 8. I'm not mad at it. I think we're seeing the Commanders. They're good, but young. Teams like Minnesota and Philadelphia that's got experience, playoff experience, are probably a step ahead a little bit. And the Vikings might have just shrugged off that little 2-game cold streak. And they at least might be contenders. They might not at least be pretenders, but I don't know if they're Super Bowl chasers either. But they're at least contenders. So I probably would flip-flop them, though. I probably would have the Steelers above the Vikings in a head-to-head matchup. But head-to-head, Vikings and Commanders, Vikings might be able to pull that one out. And I'm still probably putting Baltimore over Buffalo. That's just me. Maybe it's some bias. Let me know what you guys think down below. Let's see what they're going to say about it.
All right, I'm sitting there, Eric, with our number 1 team, the Detroit Lions. And I'm thinking to myself at halftime, where in the world is Eric going to put the Lions? Because they're down big against Houston. Didn't look good offensively. Jared Goff is throwing some interceptions. But it's all good, man. They figure out yet another way to win. The resiliency word definitely applies to the squad.
I was thinking the same thing, Mike. I thought, all right, how far do we drop them if they lose this game in the same way that they're playing in the first half? And then I heard the magical words of Dan Campbell talking at halftime. Hey, we just need a couple turnovers. We can get this thing going again. And just like that, first play from scrimmage, they forced one, it didn't add up to much, but they got another one later that was absolutely crucial in the end zone. Look, did it matter that Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs and some of the other offensive players come through in the clutch? And boy, what a nice job it is to have a kicker come through with 2 50-yard field goals, barely making it, grazing each upright in the process, but also that defense. Boy, I thought, we've talked all season about how they've won games in different ways. This one really was put on the defense and special teams. They had to come through in the clutch. They did blank the Texans in the second half, and just another victory and another path to victory that they've discovered. So what an incredible job they've done this year, navigating their way through 60 minutes and coming out with another win.
Yeah, I was working with Steve Mariucci on the pregame show Monday night, and we're playing the highlights, and the Bates kick goes through. He's like, oh, there was no doubt, right? And I'm sitting there going, yeah, there was. That kick was barely getting through. There was a little bit. And by the way, there was a ton of doubt because I did not think for the life of me that the Chiefs would get the win. The way that it looked at the end of that game, the blocked field goal. Once again, this team is absolutely playing with fire, but it doesn't matter because I think that fan base, Eric, is sitting here going, why do you have us at number 2? All we do is just win football games.
Yeah, you had that great stat, 9-0.
Hold on. I want to know down below, realistically, realistically, do you still have, despite the 9-0 record, 8-1, do you really, who has the Chiefs as the number 1 team in the league and who has Detroit? I'm on the side that says Detroit because I'm also thinking in a head-to-head matchup, I do not think they can win how they've been winning all season against Detroit. Because Detroit's basically almost kind of doing the same thing, especially with how they just won this last game. They're resilient, they're tough, they know how to win, and they can get it done. And I think they're ready for that next step. That they've had a little bit of taste of success, and people are like, oh, okay, well, they shocked everybody last year. Now they're starting to wear off. They only got 1 loss. They're still doing it. So for me, I'm on team Detroit's the best team in the league. I think if a Super Bowl matchup were today, I would put my money on Detroit. Let me know down below if y'all rocking with that same mindset.
Victories in which they've had to come back, 7 one-score wins. I mean, they find a way. Now, look, I will say that defense hasn't, it's 2 games in a row where they let the opponent drive down the football field and put themselves in a position to either tie or win the game at the end of regulation. Obviously, that was a fortunate turn there. Leo Chanel comes up with a big play there. And those guys are littered throughout that roster. They built it with winners, guys who understand their roles and contribute to an unbelievable team success. However, this is a team that's -4 in turnovers. This is a team that only has the 9th best point differential in the NFL. So there's got to be a little bit of a sliding scale, even with all the goodwill they built up over the last 5-6 years.
Chanel, you made a reference to it with the blocked field goal. Go back to last year's Super Bowl and the big block that he had in that game, which is a reason why we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs potentially being a 3-peat Super Bowl champs, which is wild. But there's a lot of seasons still left here. There's a fan base. There's media members saying, hey, perfect season. Big test that we have on the road against the Buffalo Bills, our 3rd-ranked team. I don't know if we should do a look ahead or a look back, but no Amari Cooper, no Keon Coleman. Coleman, by the way, not playing in this matchup against Kansas City. This does feel like the first real test for both of these teams, but more specifically, I think bigger for Buffalo, because earlier this season, back-to-back road games for them against the Texans and the Ravens weren't able to pull that out. They get this one, and all of a sudden, we start having a real conversation about the Bills maybe being situated to make a run to the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. I think, you beat teams like the Colts, and they've beaten plenty of those teams this year. That's what you're supposed to do if you're the Buffalo Bills. They took care of business, held them off the entire game, but we're really going to see how they measure up, especially after those 2 losses early in the season against tougher competition in this game against the Chiefs. We know they won't have Keon Coleman, didn't have him Sunday. Not sure about Amari Cooper, but, even without those guys, I thought Josh Allen played well. On the surface, you look, no touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, but made some big throws, had the big touchdown run as well. I think they're still equipped to be a team that can knock off maybe a complete club like the Chiefs, like the Ravens in the playoffs, but it requires them to have a little confidence in beating teams like Kansas City at home. If they don't take that one, then all of a sudden you sort of question their long-range potential, I think.
5 straight wins for the Bills. You name dropped the Baltimore Ravens, who sit at number 4 in your rankings. That was a fun game against Cincinnati, to the point where I said, I think it was last week's show, I said, hey, I'm done talking about the Bengals. I'm their biggest defender. I can't do it anymore. Well, guess what? We're going to talk about the Ravens here, who figure out a way once again to get another victory. I still look at this team, and I think it's perfect where you have them. But to me, on paper and what I've seen from watching this squad, I think they're still the team to beat and will be there at the end.
On their best day, especially when Lamar Jackson is humming, they are very, very difficult to beat. That offense is sort of another notch higher than almost every other team. But in the first half, it didn't look that way. They got booed off the field at one point at M&T Bank Stadium. Haven't heard that too much. And I will say the defense did make the 2 most important plays in the game. The Chase Brown fumble, the 2-point stop at the end there. But in between, it was ugly. I could argue that Lamar Jackson is actually playing better than his MVP form of last year. I cannot argue, however, that the defense is doing the same thing. It feels like a big drop-off, and to me, that does shrink the margin of error a little bit. So if they're not great on one side of the ball on any given day, that does open up the path for the other team to steal a win.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw one observation your way. The matte purple helmets for the Ravens, 2 thumbs up from me. I always like the all-black unis because it just looks fast when they're out on the football field. But I'm with you, man. The Ravens certainly one of those scary squads. I was waiting to figure out the timing of when we could talk about the Steelers because they've been flirting in that top 10 range. They've made a move. And I think what's remarkable is some of these offensive numbers. Hat tip, a lot of respect to Mike Tomlin and the decision to go from Justin Fields, which
look at this. This really is crazy. Like Russ he's playing like Seahawks Russ again. He's playing like Broncos Russ. So maybe it was the Broncos that was the problem. But you see the rushing yards going with the passing obviously way up because Russell's known to throw the ball deep down the field. Like he's got that deep pass archetype, I guess you could say. Like Fields is known for just making bigger plays. But he's not like known for always chucking the ball down the field deep. Wilson's known for that. So I figured the yards probably would jump up a little bit for the running game to also go up too as well. The yards per play to go up. And I mean, it's the fact that they're really just winning just as much as well with Wilson as Fields. I mean, that's really all it comes down to. Like, I really think this is this scheme here. You let Wilson play at the end of his contract. Then he probably retires. You just let Fields take over. and then you just keep winning. Like it's not even that hard of a scheme.
I think what's a big question for a lot of folks to Russell Wilson, and across the board offensively, points per game are up, total yards are up, passing yards are all up with Russell Wilson these last 3 weeks of the season compared to what we saw through the first 6 weeks with Justin Fields. To me, the biggest eye-opening number, the rushing yards, 132 under Justin Fields for those weeks. In the last couple weeks here, 152 with Russell Wilson. That's a mobile quarterback in Fields who likes to take off. I'm almost surprised here by the total numbers that we're seeing, but the point is the Steelers right now, I think it's time that we say, hey, they got a real chance.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen Jaylen Warren come back into the offense too, as good as Najee Harris is, and I think it was important for him too. So that kind of, timed up well with Wilson's return to the lineup. They're doing play action. They're taking those vertical shots, and they're having a pretty high success rate on them. And look, this is a big play they absolutely had to have from their new wide receiver in Mike Williams. Great to get him in there on a route he'd never run before. It was a big day all around, I think, for the passing game, even when they took sacks and had struggles. I mean, defensively, they were big. They've come up so clutch in the big moments, even with the loss against Dallas. I felt like they played better at the ends of games more often than not. They showed it Sunday against they moved up a weight class. This is a tough Washington team, and I thought this was an important statement for them overall. But you're right. The numbers have proven Mike Tomlin right, Arthur Smith right, and they've shown that Russell Wilson so far has been the better choice.
And just to reiterate here, because I think there's some Commanders fans that are saying, hey, what about us? And I know I gave the rankings just behind them at 8. So still a lot of respect that you give to that Washington squad. I know we touched on the number 1 team in the Lions. The team that they took out was the Houston Texans, who are right now spiraling down the rankings. In Arizona, look at the Cardinals, their highest ranking of the season. We examine both of those squads. Coming up next on NFL Power Rankings.
Yeah. So we got this second quadrant here. You got the Packers down 1, going to 9. Chargers moving up 2. Cardinals up 3. Texans down 2. Niners staying. Falcons down 3. Broncos and Buccaneers staying. I actually might be cool with it. I don't want to say I'm believing in the Cardinals yet, and I'm starting to. His sophomore slump might be starting to hit CJ. It honestly is probably just more so the fact that his receivers are gone. Tank isn't stepping up. I don't think, what was his name? Nico Collins, I don't think he played last week. And obviously Stephon Diggs, I think, is out for the season. So, his weapons are kind of gone, kind of much like what happened to end last year for them. So I think they just need to get him another weapon for real, or at least a healthy one. So for that, that would be the only thing that I would change. If they were healthy, I'd probably move them up a little bit more, but with no health, I'm starting to not trust them as much, but still trust them like more than the 49ers, for example. Actually, probably could flip-flop that too as well, low-key. But outside that, it's all kind of like here and there, possibly. So I'll rock with the list as it is. I do think it could go like this. I'm love to see the Falcons drop 3 spots. No, drop them below the Broncos just because.
Yeah, Mike, I wrote that the Chargers have a type, that the victories all feel the same, right? I mean, where they score 20 to 25 points, they keep the opponent to 17 or fewer points. And the game for me really turned after Justin Herbert's fumble was turned into, correctly, by the way, was turned into a incomplete pass. That would have obviously flipped the game quite significantly towards the Titans. But the Chargers realized they had to stop playing footsie here and put the pedal to the metal. Their version of it is the run game, getting Herbert in a rhythm. They did that. 2 long drives in the second half, really kind of choked out the Titans, but, got to tighten up a little defensively. But I love the pass rush. They did it a lot without Khalil Mack, without Joey Bosa playing big roles on Sunday. This is a group that Jesse Minter has really brought together. And with Herbert kind of expanding his role over the past few games, they're a pretty dangerous team. I would not want to face this team right now, but they haven't really faced the strongest opponents so far. That'll change. Bengals next at home, then the Ravens. I think we'll know a lot about this team and how they're heading into the playoffs after those 2 games, but I like where they're at right now.
Yeah, I'm smiling here because you just said Cincinnati as a squad. I like it. Because you and I have been going back
dangerous.
And forth.
They're right. Dangerous.
They are dangerous.
How about that?
Yes, because of their offense. I was geeked up to talk to you about the Arizona Cardinals, who you have sitting at 11.
Man, hey, look, whoever your kids are, tell them to stop teaching that young slang, bro. Nah, my boy said, I've been geeked up. I'm about to hang up that word, bro. You more than me.
And they move up 3 spots from last week. They're stacking wins. Kyler looks like the old school Kyler Murray, who we felt like was one of the more talented quarterbacks in the NFL. Connor's running the football terrific. The defense has been stepping up as of late. I think they are dangerous in the NFC West.
They are.
Love this team. I really think Jonathan Gannon, a lot of people kind of poo-pooed that hire a few years ago. He has done nothing but kind of laughed in the faces of his questioners a little bit, especially since about December last year. They really kind of parlayed it into the offseason with a strong finish. And so far this year, even with a few hiccups, they are on a roll right now. It's fun to watch. They're a team that has some energy. And when you mentioned Kyler, I think he absolutely deserves to be in the MVP discussion right now. There was a play in the third quarter there. It was still a 2-score game. The Jets come on a blitz, absolutely pop him. His helmet goes flying 10 yards. What does he do? He smiles, brushes himself off, and delivers 2 dimes right after that. To me,
so because he gets cracked, smiles about it, and then drops off 2 dimes, he need to be MVP? Shit, if that's the case, the strippers need to be MVPs and getting cracked and dropping 2 dimes.
To me, that's the sign of a tough, big-time quarterback who's playing at an elite level, maybe not on the statistical level of a Burrow or a Lamar, but boy, he's been special and everybody has rallied around him. It is a fun team out there all of a sudden.
Okay, so a couple things to unpack here. Number one, I was doing Game Day Live on NFL Network during this game. That exact hit, that was ferocious. And you're right. Like I'm thinking to myself, I would explode if that was me. And yet he comes up and he was smiling. And you're right. He responded in a big way. But can you just repeat? Because I thought I heard you say something about Kyler and MVP conversation.
I'm telling you, I think he should at least be in the discussion. It's going to be hard to top the Josh Allens of the world, the Burrows, Lamars, guys who've been a little bit closer to the top of the passing numbers. But boy, if you just look at the impact.
I'm disappointed that he laid you up to retract that statement and not say it again. And you stood on business. This business ain't it though.
Fact that Kyler's had higher impact as a passer, higher impact as a scrambler as well. You know, I think he's been a big part of their success out there, and you know they're going to live and die by his talent. I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's a conversation that not many people are having. Number 12, the Houston Texans. What in the world am I supposed to do with this team?
Be afraid?
It's a great question, Mike. You know, I feel like they're slipping a little bit, obviously. We haven't seen the same time. Since that win at New England, it feels like the offense is lagging. The defense is giving up a couple of big drives per game, not having the same success taking the football away. You know, getting blank Sunday, all they needed was a couple of field goals to kind of hang on to this one. Weren't able to get it done. And look, some of the blame has to go to C.J. Stroud. That interception in the end zone, thought he could kind of layer it in there. Ended up being a poor pass. I mean, not all on him, of course. The offensive line, we saw him against the Jets the week before. They did clean some of that up Sunday. But boy, you know, not having the same success on that side of the ball and, you know, making life too tough for themselves, putting themselves in these close game situations.
I ain't even cap. Them helmets is tough as no, bro. Them Reds is tough.
Pulled it out in other games, previous games, but the last few has looked a lot more shaky. So they may not have a stranglehold on this division when it looked like they did a couple weeks ago.
They did. Yeah.
Houston Texans, by the way, an opportunity to get back in the win column Monday Night Football against a struggling mightily Dallas Cowboys squad. Time for Future Champions. It is presented by FanDuel, a closer look at the NFC West odds to go and win this thing.
They still giving it to the 49ers the most.
Arizona, and yet it's the San Francisco 49ers, the favorite according to FanDuel, followed by the Cardinals.
And that's like almost all because of the CMC coming back. For if he was still hurt or on IR, it probably would give more love to the Cardinals, but that's crazy.
Rams and the Seahawks, who have some major questions there. All right, let's focus in at number 13 with this Niner squad. Christian McCaffrey comes back. They're 23-4 with him in the lineup. That's a positive thing. Once again, a nail biter. Jake Moody had to kick the big field goal late in this game. How confident in the Niners are you that they can win this division?
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, they still have a lot of work to do. You look at some of these projection models, they're still under 50% to get into the playoffs. So there's some heavy lifting ahead, and they've got some tough games on their schedule, no doubt about it. I don't think we're going to have to worry about Jake Moody missing 3 field goals every single week, but they have had at least one big special teams error in each of their losses and even some of their wins too. So like Sunday. So getting that part of the game figured out, super important, but you have McCaffrey back. That can cover up some of the mistakes. I'd like to see them just look a little bit more dominant. Now, obviously, if they make all 3 of those kicks, we may not be talking in this same vein, but still, it shows that there's a little bit of shakiness. I think McCaffrey being back, obviously, is going to be a big part of it. You can go to him at almost any down and distance. That's going to kind of help ease things up. And Brock Purdy still does find ways to make plays. George Kittle's been on fire. They still have the goods, but there's a lot of hard work ahead, I think.
Yeah, the roster is there, but they have put themselves in a little bit of a hole because of some of these injuries. Meanwhile, Monday Night Football, we saw Tua get his first win since week number 1. What does that mean for the rankings? And why is one of the most talented teams in the NFL sitting dead last in the rankings? The answer is coming up next.
The Saints are dead last? All right, third quadrant, which we slid our way back into. As you see there with the +3. But Seahawks up 2, Bengals up 2, Bears down 2, Dolphins up 4, be jumped there to 20. Rams down 3, Colts down 1, we're up 3, and then the Cowboys down 1. I would put us above the Colts, maybe not the Rams. Ooh, I mean, I guess if I can't say above the Rams, I can't really say above the Dolphins, then can I? Could we beat the Rams 1-on-1? We might be able to slide that. Because I think we could take Miami. I actually think we could take the Bears. I don't know. This win got me feeling different. Put us at 19. Now, we're not taking the Bengals. I think the Bengals could take the Seahawks, though. So I would put Bengals, Seahawks, Saints, and then have everything else like normal.
So at 20, Eric, you have the Miami Dolphins up 4 spots, as I just made reference to. I start looking at this schedule here. They might have an ability to go on a 3-game winning streak following this win against the Rams. Got the Raiders, next up, and then it's the Patriots, and then who knows what's happened. I feel like momentum might be in their favor.
You win those 2, you at least have increased your chance a little bit, but it's probably going to take winning maybe 2 out of 3 against the Packers, the Niners, the Texans, some of the tougher games on their schedule. But if they have a defense that plays like it did Monday night, especially in the first 2.5, 3 quarters, they might be in decent shape. Tua didn't have the best night. It wasn't the greatest night for the offense in general, but Miami's defense really stepped up and made a statement, kept the Rams out of the end zone. Obviously, some of that was situational at the end, but still played well enough. Got a couple big plays from, Tyreek Hill still needs the ball more. Waddle, same thing. I'd love to see Malik Washington get the ball more, but Mostert with the long conversion here, that was one of a few plays in 3rd and long situations that they got and the Rams did not get. So credit to Miami's defense. Going on the road, I know it hasn't been easy. They played 2 games where Tua played well and lost. Now where they have one where he steps back a little and they still win. So a funky season so far, obviously, and him missing a big chunk of it. But I'm willing to kind of hold out a little bit of hope, but not putting, big hopes on them making the postseason. But we had 2, 3, and 6 teams make it last year. Do not rule it out. Just warning you right now.
Yeah, I think the number is heading into Monday Night Football. It was like 2 teams since 1990 that had started 2 and 6 that were able to get there. And I think those 3 and 6 teams, 8 teams, if I'm not mistaken, in
something
that
like
conversation.
That. Yep.
It's so, once again, uphill battle. But yeah, I think we're saying there's a chance. But by the way, I'm really glad that you did make reference to Miami's defense. Season high 4 sacks for them. Matthew Stafford hadn't been sacked in the last 2 games, so they delivered in a meaningful way. The Saints, they make a coaching change and they get some explosives. I don't know. Will we flash him back to week 1, week 2? New
Don't
Orleans?
do that, please.
I don't know if we're going quite that far, but Darren Rizzi with a statement in his first game as an interim head coach. My kids were very excited. They run around saying Riz and Rizzler all the time. I have no idea what it means, but apparently he's got the Riz because they got this team playing with a lot more energy on Sunday. Look, the Saints, boy, their fans were leaving at half times of games and things like that. It was getting kind of ugly down there. All the losses in a row. Now we have something new to talk about, a winning streak. It's 1, but hey, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I don't know where he, summoned the spirit of Joe Horn on Sunday, but he was terrific in the first half, and they held off a good, but maybe not great Atlanta team who's maybe struggled a little bit in situations where we don't think they should against Seattle and against New Orleans here. But good for New Orleans, especially when you see an interim coach come in and fire up a team and get them to play well in your debut. And he's a funny guy, too. He had some great post-game quotes about how his first game went down. It was a little nerve-wracking for him, but ended up with a win.
Yeah, and also well-educated. The pride and joy of Bergen Catholic High School in New Jersey. Go Crusaders. I know
very nice.
Else. This guy who went to Bergen Catholic certainly had a little bit of a rooting
Not
interest.
class,
Glad to see Coach get in the win column in that coaching debut with that interim title with the Saints. All right, let's go through teams 25 through 32.
All right, so it's 25 through 32. Jets dropped 3, Browns up 1. Patriots really should have been the power moves, up 5 spots. Panthers up 2, Giants down 4. Titans down 1, Raiders staying there, and then the Jaguars down 4 spots to the worst team now in the NFL. I think that title probably could go to the Giants, for being honest. The Giants probably could slip a little bit farther back. Outside of that, that's probably like the only change that I would make would be dropping them a little bit lower. Maybe putting like, I can't really say the Bron. I mean, the Jets are pretty bad, honestly. Like, nah, but I think they're all like in the same. Like those four are all probably in the same tier, so I really can't move them around. Just moving the Giants down to the lower seed.
On your power rankings, explain to me what the heck has gone on with this team.
I just don't think they got the receivers, honestly.
Absolutely not, especially playing in this division, right, which you knew wasn't necessarily the toughest in the NFL, even coming into the season. So it has been an utter disappointment. Defensively, although they did get 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and had 2 coming into the game, that's probably a big reason why they've dug themselves in a 2-8 hole. But if you can't win these types of games, even against better teams, even with your backup quarterback, Mac Jones, subbing for Trevor Lawrence, you know, this is how the season's going to go. And Doug Peterson's going to have to answer a lot of questions, not just about Press Taylor, not just about Lawrence, but about the big picture and whether this team can pull out of it. So, yeah, everything has seemingly gone wrong this season. You know, we saw Tank Bigsby stand out, then he falls back. We saw Brian Thomas Jr. have a couple games of flash, and then on Sunday, they barely get him the ball until the very end. So is there an offensive plan in place? Is there real defensive improvement, or was Sunday a little bit of a lucky thing? I don't know the answers, but I know I don't like what I see so far. And, you know, they've got to figure this thing out because they did pour so much money and invest so much in Trevor Lawrence.
Real buzzkill for that fan base. Hey, I got a bonus one for you because it doesn't necessarily pertain to the rankings, but there's a group of teams right now that I think have some talent. I'm going to throw 3 teams your way. Cincinnati at 18, the Dolphins at 20, and the Rams at 21. If you had to pick one team that makes the postseason from that trio, who's your squad?
Prior to Monday night, I probably would have said the Rams with a win. Were they going to be able to beat the Dolphins? But that win really put them behind the 8 ball. I'm just saying the Bengals might be a little bit better right now or a little bit more dangerous. I would probably say I would back them a little harder than I would the Dolphins, but both teams a little bit scary for anyone who's playing them right now.
Yeah, they definitely are. Cincinnati, the only thing that worries me, and this is not breaking news.
Nah. Y'all had y'all time. It's time for me to speak. Nah, for real, I'll probably back Cincinnati too out of that grouping. I just don't think Miami's gonna have it. Especially you said they had a 3-game stretch against Houston, San Francisco, and who was the other team? Somebody else that was really tough. I forgot who the other team. Green Bay, I think. Yeah, nah. I'm definitely going Cincinnati too. They almost hung in there and took one from the Ravens, who right now is my AFC Super Bowl favorite. So they're even able to hang in that much. They start playing some lower scale teams. They'll get a couple big wins and then maybe sneak out a couple of good ones against some good teams too. They could possibly slide into that last wild card spot. It's still open for them. So let me know what you guys think down below. In that trio, we'll answer the same question. Which 3 are you backing the most? Miami, Cincinnati, or I almost said St. Louis. I almost said St. Louis, but the Rams. My fault. But let me know who you guys are backing out of those 3, and let me know who your favorite team was and where they were on the list. I agree with it for the most part. When you start getting to these later parts of the season, you can start to agree on the rankings a little bit better here and there. Like I said, the only major difference out of the whole list that I would say would be me having Baltimore probably as team 3 over Buffalo. That's really one of the only like huge moves that necessarily I would say like impacts anything. So let me know down below what your changes would be, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Of course, we will Sean Smooth, get back, Avatar, Key Leo. We'll catch you guys in the next video, man. I'm going for the day. Peace.